Now, usually, you say time to talk, but this is with the main man, time to talk. So, they've heard me drop your name, Dave, in the past, so introduce yourself.
Yeah, Dave Powell, director of Time to Talk, one of 3 directors, but I'm the person who set up Time to Talk and registered it, and I guess kind of led the development of it.
Yeah, we'll start with, and then we'll kind of go back. You've got a lot out there in terms of what you've done in terms of men's mental health and other things, offshoots from that. So, what gave you an initial idea, or whereabouts were you in your life where you thought, you know something, I fancy going down this route?
Yeah.
Maybe tell people a bit about your background.
Yeah, because I'll use the word organic probably a lot when I talk, and it has been organic. So my background is, I started in social work as the age of 21, unqualified, and then qualified quite quickly around the age of 23. And I quickly went into working with young people in social work, and actually quickly went into working with young offenders in youth justice.
Is that local or?
Yeah, I worked in Chesterfield actually. So all my work actually has been in Derby and Derbyshire. And that's been almost 40 years. Wow. So social work for a short period, which was kind of working with young people. Yeah. But then it was children and it was child protection work, which wasn't really my thing, safeguarding. Wasn't really my thing. I quickly went into youth justice, which was my bag really, from a young age, working with challenging young people. Okay.
Who found themselves?
Yeah, who'd been in custody, going through the courts, lots of court reports. I remember my first ever case in Chesterfield, going to Crown Court, and driving the lad, picking up in the morning, taking him to Crown Court with my first court report, thinking I'll bring him back mum later. Yeah. And he got a 2-year sentence, And
so what year, whereabouts we're talking now?
So we're talking early 90s, about 94, mid-90s, 94, 95. So I worked in Chesterfield Youth Justice, and I worked in youth justice for a long time, probably 17 years, something like that. And it's interesting, the mental health thing. I, again, organically ended up, I'd kind of come to an end of time in youth justice where it was like it felt a bit like probation, where I was ticking, because you have to do so much typing, you're just ticking people in. I'm a person who likes to work. Actually, work with people. And I was getting to a point where I thought, I can't do this anymore. And somebody said, there's a job in mental health. In CAMS, Children and Adult Mental Health Services, which used to be a place that people went to retire in back in the day. It used to be a local organisation where the more experienced people kind of ended their career. And I went into mental health. A lot of people go into mental health because they've got experience or personal experience. Or I never, actually. Mental health wasn't anything on the horizon for me at all. It wasn't an area-specific interest, but actually working with people in social care and in youth justice, it was part and parcel of it. At the time, there was loads of people with ADHD. It was ADHD period when everyone's getting diagnosed with ADHD. And I remember going into mental health and kind of wondering, was that ADHD a real thing? That's one of my first questions, because people think it's just made up.
So what timeline were we talking about?
So again, that was 2000 and early 2006, I think.
You see, it's interesting you say that, because I think that's around about the time where I noticed this ADD, ADHD, and young people all of a sudden. So I'm 11 to 18 year old. All of a sudden, the diagnosis and that narrative kept creeping up, and then families started to pay for it privately to get a diagnosis. So I suppose the parallels are there with young and older people. And
it's really interesting, going into it, you recognise, as a practitioner, when I went into mental health, that it's a real thing. But also, working in service, you also see where people are diagnosed where, I'm not sure whether that diagnosis, sometimes within CAMS, part of the diagnosis is to get services, support in schools, so there's a bit of flexibility there, the way they diagnose it. So it's interesting being there to see diagnosis and understanding what the diagnosis is based on.
That's interesting, because when we talk again, I'd like to talk to you about that and about the pros and cons of diagnosis, especially with current young people. So I see it from both sides. We'll come back to that. It's interesting.
It is,
So you experienced that then, so you went through that, and then where did that lead you to in terms of thinking, I fancy a complete shift?
Yeah, so, well, going into the mental health, obviously I ended up being the manager of the CAM service further down the line. Prior to that, Youth Justice, I'd done a mentoring project.
Right.
That's a significant part, actually. It was called Fusion Mentoring Project.
Right.
And that was one of my most, I think, productive or enjoyable and pieces of work, because it involved community members, working with Black and Asian kids, actually, involved getting people from the community to work with the young people who were at risk of offending or offending.
Right.
And the vibe and the energy that produced, the amount of people who came through that, who ended up, like my nephew, ended up coming out to working with computers, and he's been working with children and young people since that time. You know, and there's a number of people who got into the services through that. But the engagement and the energy there was really, I connected to where I am now, personally, because that was, I thought at that stage, it was a 3-year funded thing, and I thought, I know that would work in the community, but I wasn't ready personally to run it. I know it would have crumbled, you know what I mean? But potentially, that could have worked at that time in the community. And this mirrors, elements of it mirrors what Time to Talk is happening now.
So those seeds, you can see, if you look back, you can see how those seeds were sown,
absolutely,
and what it led to, in terms of. So, take me from then, when you thought, you know something, I'm going to give it 100% of my time and energy. What gave that final leap?
So I actually ended up leaving NHS, and even there, actually, the end of my NHS career was a bit of burnout. I remember, I burned out really. I was working and I was not having the work-life balance really. I was working too much, and I loved the work, but I wasn't looking after myself really. And so I had a bit of burnout towards the end of that. I had an incident where, just as I was finishing CAMS, one of the young people I was working with committed suicide, and that was a really difficult period. I left CAMS and went private to private organisation, but then after leaving CAMS, I went through a journey. That's when the journey started, including personal things, you know, relationships, and my mother passing away. And I just really, it's weird actually, it's hard to describe. I could feel that I was on a journey, and organic. I didn't have a plan to say, right, I'm going to set this up. What happened was that the starting point of the Time to Talk was Christian Gordon, a young person called Christian Gordon, who I actually I knew his parents, I knew him, lovely lad, and he died, and there was an issue around his mental health, and there was a big meeting called in the community, and this was kind of very spontaneous, and it was Donna Briscoe, Lima Daly, and Christian's mum Genevieve, who were the lead figures of this. But the event was fantastic. It was like a community event with all different people, and it was really powerful. And from that, Time to Talk started. So from that, and I wasn't leading that. I was involved in the event just as a speaker, but people like Bev were involved, Bev Cooper, Bev Stewart, Lima, Donna, they kind of started holding monthly meetings, which were good, but there was no organisational structure behind it. And after a period of time, it was kind of starting to lose momentum. And I was there actually when it started. I actually intentionally stood back because I thought I wanted somebody else to take the lead. But again, organically, it was like, came to a stage where actually it might have stopped, and I thought, right, I'm going to take it on. And I then registered Time to Talk CIC. So it became, I separate the two. It's the same thing, but I separate Time to Talk with, when I started, I registered it as Time to Talk CIC, as a CIC.
So community interest charity? Community
interest company, which is like a charity. It's not profit, it's not for profit, but it's community based, and it's for the community.
So when was that then? When
that was 3 years ago. So where are we now? 2023.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 2023, and so again, it kind of suits my kind of nature. I'm not a structured person actually in a certain way. I kind of like to do things organically. And so things like the aims and objectives and stuff had to be put in after it had already started.
Yeah.
And as we've been working with the group, I've had to kind of do it, you know, get the structure put in, rather than some people would have it all at the start. I've had to kind of put it in going forward. Yeah. So it was an organic kind of situation that I took it on. It started as a black men's mental health.
I was going to say, so once you'd registered it, what were your initial focuses? What foci did you think, right, this is what I want it to be? What was your first thing? Was your first thing black men's mental health?
Yeah, because it started as that, and it was, but quite quickly, quite early on, and I remember having a meeting. So the early meetings we had was at Unity Cafe, which was Cheryl Shirt and her son. What's her son's name? Kickboxer.
Yeah, Dwayne.
Sorry, Dwayne.
Yeah.
Great people as well. It's their venue, and it was a black men's group. We was having, like, which is normal, 6s and 7s at the first meetings. I remember quite quickly. I thought we should open it up. Yeah. But I asked the group, actually, it was interesting, it's a group of 6 or 7 black guys, and I just thought, what do you think? And everybody actually thought it should be opened up. Yeah. And for me, what it enabled, it kind of represented, I like diversity, I'm really big into diversity, but I've got keen kind of recognition that black men's mental health is a massive issue, and it's a specific issue that I do really want to hold and maintain within the group, you know, working with the community, doing projects, looking at issues around black men's mental health, alongside the whole thing, you know, and that can be, we can look at cultural issues across the board.
So under that banner, black men, what's the subheadings under the word black men? Because people go, what do you mean? Do you mean South Asian? Do you mean?
So I've had conversations about using that term, black men.
Yeah,
you know, it's
just out of interest.
Yeah, it's a generative. It's African and Caribbean, but in a way, being more specific, be African Caribbean really, because of the statistics that surround that, and that's the reason. It's not just because we want to do it. It's because African Caribbean men have the highest rates of incarceration in mental health institutions. They stay longer than heavily more medicated than other people.
But hasn't that been the case for decades, hasn't it?
And it's the same in all across the board with African Caribbean men in education, in crime, in health. Yeah. You know, we are always. It's a historic thing, and it's interesting to look at the different kind of cultural impact in England with different kind of people of different black communities, you know, and we're all impacted usually in negative ways, but there is a specific thing with African Caribbean men. So that's kind of what it was. Okay, yeah. I don't think it was specified specifically, but it was African Caribbean men really because of the specific statistics that show the issues that relate to them.
Which is it's always a good place a benchmark to start, isn't it?
Yeah. Well,
there's the facts.
Yeah.
That's a good starting point.
Yeah. So that's what it's, but quite quickly we opened it up, and I think that was, for me, and I remember when I started doing that, I know there's people out there who may be were a bit critical, even now might be, but I think most people recognise now that this is the best way to operate because it still gives the opportunity to do different specific pieces of work with African Caribbean community and with other, you know, it allows more. Yeah. If you restrict yourself to African Caribbean, then it's too restrictive, you know. And I also like diversity, encouraging diversity. That's a big thing for me. So that's how it went quite early on, opened it up. And then once we got on board, so Tanvir is a big part of the group. Tanvir is very connected community-wise. We've worked together on a lot of projects, and he came on board. And the group has actually organically been really kind of equally diverse almost, really diverse, Asian, black, white, and other communities. And it's really, you know, we haven't kind of pointed trying to get these figures, but it's kind of naturally become quite diverse.
Check out Time to Talk Men's Mental Wealth on YouTube.